Hello, I'm Lou Brutus, and my friend Lacey Sturm has joined me. She is not physically great in stature, but she stands very tall as a human being. Hello, Lacey. How are you?
Hello, Lou. I'm so happy to be with you today.
You look like $1 million. You look like the last year has been the greatest thing ever to happen. Awesome. How are you and the fam? How's everybody doing?
We're good. Today I had the past 30 minutes, maybe longer, I've been listening to an audiobook, and it's brought a lot of hilarity to my home.
I think, and this right before we popped on here, Lacey's getting signed on, and I hear all this horrible sound, and I'm like, what in God's name is that? And she's like, well, it's you.
Your book.
What's that horrible sound? That's your voice, Lou. That's your voice. So what you got the audio book of and this is supposed to be about your album and song, and we'll get started on that. But while I can hawk my book, Sonic Warrior, My Life as a Rock and Roll Reprobate, Tales of Sex, Drugs, and Vomiting at Inopportune Moments, we will. Did you read it, or did you just get the audio book?
I just got the audio just now. I've been wanting to get it since I don't even know how I saw it, because I never looked through Instagram or anything. I just don't get on there. I have too much going on in my face with 3 kids. But I did, for some reason, see that you had a book out. And of course, Corey Taylor wrote the beginning of it, which I was the forward or whatever, right? So anyway, I wanted to see. And so I've been planning to get it, and I never did. And then I found out this interview was coming, and I was like, I want to listen to it while I get ready. And so I've been doing that.
Just don't have the rest of the family around as you listen to it.
Well, yeah. Then my little 9-year-old comes in and asks me a question about one of something he's doing at school. And I was like, he doesn't know what that kind of Coke is. And he doesn't know about what this kind of, I don't know, I can't even say what I was saying. He didn't even catch anything. I was like, okay, that is divisible by 7.
As I was writing the book, and for folks who don't know, it's just filled with crazy stuff that's happened to me. I'm doing this rock and roll stuff for like 40 years since I'm a kid. Some of it I read back to myself, and I thought, well, I'm just glad I'm alive. And, on a serious note, though, I think in some small ways, you're kind of in the same boat as me with that, where you had some, I don't want to call them lost years, but you lived a pretty wild life before you got yourself on the straight and narrow, right?
Well, things are crazy all the time, but yes, there is definitely a different kind of crazy now than it was before. So,
tell me about the crazy back in the day, and then compare that to now, which is the much more positive, crazy life that you live.
Well, I think the biggest difference is just my own view of myself and people, and just feeling like that the world was just an accident that was waiting to self-destruct. And there's really no meaning. And then particularly for myself, feeling like I was, my mom had 6 kids and was a teen mom when, she had me, 15 when she had my brother, 16 when she had me, and feeling like I was another mouth to feed, and just getting in the way, and being sort of an empathetic person anyway, and always kind of feeling the weight of other people's feelings, which I guess not everybody has that kind of gift, I guess. I'll call it a gift now, or curse. You can feel what other people feel. So if somebody's around you always, worried, you kind of catch that, and always afraid, always angry, always whatever. And then thinking you're crazy because, you don't even know why you're feeling that way. Sometimes, I don't know why I'm so sad. And then I realize it's this person in that house, or now I understand a little bit better. But back then I just felt like I was a mess. I didn't understand why I existed. And then I think after I guess the biggest tragedy for my childhood was my 3-year-old cousin getting beaten to death by a stepfather, and really feeling like I mean, feeling like this world is a messed up place, and why would anybody have children in this world? And, you know, I wish that why is he dead and I'm still alive? And all these big questions for a kid that really had no answers for, except that it's just all waiting to destroy itself. And we just should just, it just felt very depressing, you know? And I think by the time I was 10, I learned how to talk myself into that addiction to sadness, which is what I was, addicted to sadness. Like if I caught myself feeling happy, I felt guilty of that. And I would say, hey, no, this world is messed up. You need to be, you need to be aware and not naive. And I equated happiness with being naive or sick, wrong. Something's wrong with you to be happy in a place where kids get beaten to death. You know, so it's like, I was just very dark, and I just only liked people, and I hated people, especially happy people, especially people who believed in God, because at that point I stopped believing in God, and there's no, and I just hated myself, hated people, and hated any talk about God. And unless you hated people, I hated you, you know? So I kind of was drawn towards the cynics and the people who really faced tragedy and death head on and loved rock and roll for that reason, you know. Really loved the sarcasm of Nirvana. I remember when I first heard Nirvana, I realized I felt seen and heard in a good way, you know, because I was born 81, and when Nirvana came out, had been bullied throughout school, you know, and they had, you know, I was 11 or 12. My brother actually went to a show in Dallas, the Trees show, Nirvana show. My mom took him, and he brought home the tape, came into my room with the boombox. I was the only one that had one, listening to the one thing. I don't know what, I think I had like a Paul Abdul thing. I didn't know about rock and roll. Paul Abdul. And he brought it in, and I just was mesmerized from the beginning. I was like, what is this? These people look like us. And we get made fun of all the time for looking like that, you know? And I was like, this is amazing.
At that point, were you already starting to write at all, be it stories or poetry, or was that your beginning of the journey as a writer?
No, I think I did this. I wrote since I think I started when I was 10 years old, writing a really depressing journal. Like during that time, I guess when I was struggling with my cousin's death, he was like a little brother to me. And I guess I started writing down all the bad things people would say to me, like literally taught myself to be addicted to sadness. I don't even know where that came from. Probably Satan or something. You know, you like write down all the bad things that people say, you know, like, and that's who you are. And I just believed a bunch of lies about myself, like until, you know, and so I did write. I wrote very dark things. I drew, like I was constantly, you know, thinking about dying, and I wrote about that and drew pictures of that. And I was like fascinated by that.
Do you still have those journals?
No, I don't know. I mean, if I did come across something, that'd be really shocking. It might be, I don't know, but I've moved so many times. I've been all over. I don't know. There are some things.
The reason I bring it up is it would be just the greatest sort of revenge to take the horrible crap that people said about you when you were 10 years old, turn it into a hit song, and then buy a new house with the hatred that was received, from you 20 years ago. You know, living well is the best revenge, as they say.
Isn't that what rock and roll is? It's just that, exactly that.
So, you know, I've always gotten the sense that because, we've spoken about various aspects of your past before, it always seemed to me that with other people, writing was sort of a coping mechanism and maybe the best way to let off steam and maybe the one thing that kept you going.
Yeah. And I realize now how kind of lucky I was to have a mom who encouraged art in our house. I mean, she was all over the board with things. She was a musician herself, but that was one thing she really encouraged us in, was art. I always had the ability to have paper and pens, a paper and pencil or whatever, to be able to do that. And that was like, if I couldn't sleep, I would just write until it was all out of my brain. And then it seemed like it was better. But yeah, very therapeutic, definitely.
Now, where was the point during this that you realized, hey, not only is writing sort of good therapy for me, I actually might be able to do this for real. Like I might be able to like do this as a profession for the rest of my life. Was there an epiphany, or was it just over the course of years?
Well, I think it was when we were offered our first tour, probably, because I had a home daycare at that time. And I was like, had to tell the parents that I remember that moment, because I never thought about doing it, making money. Like I thought about that maybe it's important for me to write songs for people who are going through the same things that I went through. And maybe I could help, maybe I could just, help them express themselves and feel heard and known and pulled out of that dark place some. Which was what I kind of felt like I owed to God for pulling me out. But I never thought that I never purposefully went into it to make a career out of it alone. But I remember that first time they were like, we want you to go on tour. And I was like, I guess this is it. I guess I'm going to shut down my daycare. And I remember that, because I'm I'm like way present in a weird way. I'm here today, and I don't know if I have tomorrow. And I always felt that way, So I guess when it finally hit me was, I guess we're actually going to pay our bills with this. Like, or maybe we won't need a house. We'll just be on the road. And we didn't have, I don't know. We were on the road for 10 years, hardly any time off. And it was crazy.
I find it really interesting because, I get to talk to interesting creative people like yourself all the time. And I often hear them say things, and I think to myself, now that sounds like a great song lyric from them. So I'm thinking, I'm going to shut down my daycare is the great opening line of your next song. So maybe you might want to jot that down. Maybe it's autobiographical. I'm not sure. But do you get a different sense of, I don't want to say enjoyment, a different sense of satisfaction between writing for a book or writing a song or creating art of other kind? Do you get a different vibe from each one?
Oh, it is really different. I mean, there's some similarities. Yeah, it's so different. I mean, I think writing a book was I always marveled at people who could write a zillion words and make them all fit together in a book. There was a lot I could do that. But apparently if you talk a lot, you can write a book, right?
Essentially, yeah. Well, that's, when folks have been on me to write a book for a while, and publishers and all this stuff. And I tried writing from scratch. And then I thought, well, you know what? I've told all of these stories a million times. I'm just going to say it out loud and write it down. And that was the basis of the book. And then I went back and rewrote it all. But 90% of it sounds exactly like I tell the story. And that's, the audiobook that you were kind enough to download, which you really didn't need to get. Thank you, though. But that's why that went all so easy, because it was just as I would tell it. So it sounds like you kind of, approached it all the same way, the easiest way for people like us, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. I know. And you know what? My husband, of course he knows I talk too much, and he's like, yeah, you just write this down. So I was actually writing emails back to people who had written me emails after I quit Flyleaf. They were like, well, I've been going through this and your music really helped me. And then I'd sit there for hours and 7,500 emails there. And I'm on like number 3 and I've been there for hours. It's just like, what are you doing? Like, these people need to know that it's okay. They're going to come out of this. It's like, what? It's like, why didn't you write a book?
By the way, Lacey, in that answer, I think you had the second line of the song, the first line being, I'm going to close down my daycare. The second line being, I don't know what I'm doing. So if you can find a line for that, you got your third and fourth lines to follow up with, and you're really good. So anyway, tell me about new music, because you have a song, and we'll talk specifically about that tune in just a moment. But apparently there's a full-on album on the way. So kind of bring me up to date with recordings and doings.
Well, yeah. So I went. I think Corey Cooper invited me up to her house. I think we were. My sister lives in that area anyway, where they're from. And I had been to their house a few other times, and one time we got stuck in Chicago at Christmas, and we were stuck in the airport, and we were like, "Hey, we're stuck here at Christmas. You think maybe I could crash your Christmas?" She's like, "Yeah, come crash." So we stayed there one Christmas. That's funny. But
that should be some wacky rock and roll Christmas special. The Cooper's Crazy Christmas, and there's a blizzard and all the rock bands are trapped at their house, and you do Christmas carols and tell stories. I'm telling you, it'd be great. You should do that. I'm dead serious. However, you might want to continue with the story though. Go ahead.
So I've been there a couple of times, and I realized, I was visiting my sister in the beginning. I don't know, but I ended up coming there, and we played. I had to catch my flight home from visiting my sister, and that morning she had an idea for a song, and so I had to leave in like 20 minutes, and she's like, "You want to come see if you have any ideas for this?" And she played this little thing and had me sing over it, and it was so fast, and we wrote a song real quick, and it was so easy because she's so Corey is so brilliant she's just brilliant. I mean, she's so quiet in the background, but she really is brilliant. She knows how to do. I don't know how to do any recording stuff. I'm like, no, thanks. That's not. You know what I mean? That's too detailed. Too many details. I'm all talk about songs in emotional terms. I'm like, it needs to be more, passionate here. And then they're like, what key is it in? I'm like, I don't know. So she knows all that stuff. She's a real musician, real producer, real engineer. She can play all the instruments. She's so awesome. And so anyway, so she did that. It worked really quick. Then we decided we wanted to do that more. And that was the first time we were together with the first album. And then this one, we were intentional. She come on, let's write, have some time off. And so we did. And I think I was there 4 days, and we wrote 6 songs or something. And so we had those, and that was over a year ago. And a lot of things have happened since then. But my husband and I finally figured it was time to put it all together. We were kind of in limbo a little bit because there was this project we were doing with Breaking Benjamin, Ben Burnley from Breaking Benjamin. And that's been kind of whether they were going to keep touring or whether they were going to have time to, so we're kind of just seeing where life was leading us, and just felt like it was time now. So it was weird because it came out the day that this last song came out, right when Head's album dropped too. And I was like, what? The Love and Death, which we were a part of as well, that was an accident. I didn't mean to do that. So, but that was so funny. It worked out that way. Quick
aside, and I'm not trying to be creepy or prying here, but what is the Cooper's house like? And the reason I ask this is I always love doing interviews with them on the road. They always have a nice, clean bus. You can go on some buses and it's who was it who said, my bus smells like boys? And some buses just have that sort of funk to them. And the Cooper's bus, you could eat off the floors. And I walk on there and I'm like, hey, you got a spare bunk? I'm moving in with you guys. I'm just going, what's the house like? What kind of stuff do they have in the house?
Well, it's really nice that way. But I think they're really their kids are teenagers now, and they're I'm trying to like wash my dishes, I'm finish my food. I'm like, no, just leave it. And I'm like, no, well, I don't want to leave, your house is whatever. And they're like, no, we pay the kids to do it. So then, Zave comes over and he's like, I'll take that for you. I'm like, okay. So like, they're all pitching in and they're all like, so I don't know. It's a cool way they function as a family and just kind of paying attention to each other in a way that's really thoughtful and kind of just, it feels like royalty. It feels like and I think that this really clicked for me because I think there was like, their Wi-Fi was like Wayne Manor or something like that. I don't know, something like that. Or something. I don't know. Because I was like, this is like Batman's house. Is what it feels like. It feels like Batman's house. So awesome. And then all the stuff clicked for me with John. I was like, yes, he's like that he reminds me of, I don't know, like what do they call it? Like vigilante or something like that. Right. I mean, he's that's kind of his thing. He's so unpredictable and just like in your face, but still like, I don't know, so polite at the same time. I don't know. It's strange.
Yeah. And they're a really interesting couple. And of course they're nice people. I'm amazed that the kids are teenagers now. Cause I remember when they were Rugrats, when they would bring them out on the summer tours, they were just running around the backstage areas and stuff. And now they're getting fully grown now. And Corey, she's one of my favorite people to see on stage. She is endlessly entertaining to watch. Yes. Either with a guitar, mostly with a guitar, but also behind the keyboards. Can you foresee any of this stuff that you've written and recorded together that, you've got State of Me and there's obviously more songs coming. Can you see somewhere down the line, them joining you on stage or vice versa and doing some of these songs live for people?
Well, I'd love that, I don't know. I don't make plans. I really don't. I mean, I kind of do. They're very loose in my brain. I mean, I kind of just like, if things line up, and I've just seen so many miraculous like things line up. I never know. My life has been so unpredictably miraculous that I can't plan. I don't know what's going to happen. I try not to because it's better when there's better plans in the destiny or something. I don't know. I don't know. So yeah, sure.
One last thing before I let you go, if you could give us specifics on the song State of Me, if there's any sort of insights that you want to share with us.
Well, I think when we were talking about, the difference between the way that I was when I, was in that I was in a self-destructive place. And that's what caused a lot of the fearlessness that was stupid in my life. It was based on my own self-hatred and not wanting to be here. And with State of Me, I think it kind of addresses that mentality that we can slip into without realizing it, and I'm saying it, because what happened in my life, like, again, I hated people. I hated myself. I hated anybody who talked about God. But on the day I planned to commit suicide, I had an encounter with God. It was real. And I didn't even believe in God. It was terrifying, and it was holy and terrifying. But what I understood about God in that moment is He is an artist, and He is love, and He's terrifying. The universe, right? But that I'm not an accident. That's what I understood, and neither is anyone else. We're like intentional art. And so I became fascinated with people. And when I was listening to your book too, I thought it was so amazing the way you have this social commentating thing that's so, it's like you see things that other people don't miss. And just the way that you look at things is so, it's awesome. I love that. And that's something I couldn't see before. Now I see this, I see people as these fascinating art pieces, and it seems like you kind of have that too. You see the interesting, hilarity and I don't know, just the way things are fit together. And the irony. And, but I started to see that afterwards, and I just began to love people, not just love people, but be awed by the differences in each other. And I'd be like, anybody I wanted to meet that was new, I found them interesting and fascinating, and all the differences and all the intricacies and whatever. And that changed me from being hating people, even to look at myself and go, well, I'm unique too. You know, I don't have DNA like nobody else, and began to just respect me as an artwork of God, you know, in a different way. And so, so with State of Me, I recognized like it was actually, when it came out, I realized it really, and I wrote about this in the press release, I guess I talked about this, was that I lost somebody recently. They took their life, and one of the most beautiful humans I've ever met. And it made me angry at the lies, you know, just the lies that we believe about our value and our contribution as a unique human. And this person really, you know, had this trap of always comparing themselves around, you know, to the people around them. And I was like, I couldn't tell them enough how beautiful they were as a unique individual. And so, like, to me, it's just like we get bogged down with all these lies. And so the song really is about recognizing that. And I know how that feels. Like, I've been in seasons even after I had that encounter with God where I've gotten sucked back into that weighty place of lies. So I'm just sick of it. I'm so angry about the way we can rationalize our self-destruction. And I'm tired. I'm mad about it. Like I'm like, okay, well, let's just pay attention to where the life is and go there. And let's pay attention to where death is leading. And let's just be violent against that. Like, no, we're going this way. No, I'm not going to sit here. I'm going to like take this thought and I'm going to like give it to God and be like, okay, creator of life, here's this death thought. What do you think about it? Like, you know, and that's kind of where I was at. And I had to do that because I love this person. And when you love somebody, you're already in their brain, you know? And it was so hard for me not to just like sit in that person's thoughts and think yeah, I get it. Yeah. Why am I here? Yeah. I want to go too, you know, like the same thing. Like, I'm like, no, this is a lie. Like, so many people were so hurt. It wasn't just your life you touched, you know, it was so many. And you don't realize the wake of our lives, good and bad, like the ripple effect, it goes on forever into eternity. Like eternally, she's still with me, you know, this person. And her effect, all the good, you know, I had to forgive that person. And once I forgave, all these good memories came, and I was like able to just like, and it wasn't sad anymore when I thought about them, you know. I was like, I forgive, you know, I get it, and I forgive you, and I, you know, have peace, you know, or go and have peace. But I want to hang on to that good eternal ripple that she made, you know what I mean? And I want to have this good eternal ripple for the people that I'm touching. And I want to tell them that their rippling effect is important too. Maybe be intentional with it, you know? And that's kind of what State of Me is. It's like, I'm going to walk out. Let's go. We're not going to sit here. And, you know, we're going to intentionally make the ripple we want, you know, not just be like, whatever, I don't care about anybody, you know, let it go. I'm sorry. You know, it's not, I don't know. I'm a little fed up. I'm sorry.
Well, I think that's a good place to end it, though, because it's a nice description of the song and certainly gives us a real understanding to everything that's happening in there. And a quick aside, thank you for the kind words about my little junk I threw together. So
I liked it. It's great. I can't wait to finish it.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You hit on something important, and that's how it's all people and everything else on the earth and all the creatures here. It's all interconnected. You know, it's all It's all part of I'm trying to think of the quote from Kurt Vonnegut from, oh God, I can't remember, the Breakfast of Champions, the Book of Buchanan, nice, very nice. So many people in the same device. And it's about the interconnectivity of life. And it's really funny anyway. So check that out before you finish up the swill I wrote, and we'll talk about it next time. Sound like a deal? And also I'm putting a date down now. So let's say maybe December 23rd, you bring your fam, I'll bring mine, and we'll meet at the Cooper's house, and we'll have presents and cake for the Christmas holiday. Sound like a plan? Tell Corey we're inviting ourselves over for the Christmas season this year. And I just hope we won't have to wear masks at that point.
I'll let them know. Okay. Our plan.
Thanks, Lacey. It's always great to talk to you.
Yeah, it's good. Great, Lou. Thank you so much.